Jingle bells in the dead of night. Oh, what fear it is to hide from the things that start with might. Jingle bells in the haunted night. Oh, what dread it is to roam through the darkness filled with fright.
Deep in the night, everything seems still as the snow slowly falls on the town of Wareville. But behind it all, there's a plan that could kill. There will be no sock miss if the mayor has his will. With malicious software, but there's a flicker from the hill. They call it Mount Hackett, the home of the glitch. The wares can't stand it, now they treat him like a witch. Just another evil hacker out to gobble up the kids. But behind all the trash and the monitor cliffs, there's a deep cave covered with a floppy disk. Inside of the cave, there's a single gaming chair. It's the throne of the glitch as he hides in his lair. He's misunderstood, but he says he doesn't care. Say he's actually good and he targets malware. He's misunderstood, but he says he doesn't care. Say he's actually good, yeah, let's target malware.
Jingle bells in the dead of night. Oh, what fear it is to hide from the things that start with might. Jingle bells in the haunted night. Oh, what dread it is to roam through the darkness filled with fright.
Back in the town, preparations begin. Marty May Ware climbs the stage once again. She's the one in charge of the celebration. As she begins to talk, everything just ends. The power turns off and she's looking at her friends. But back in the sock, the alerts start to sound. Mount Hackett's IP has been identified and found. It must be the glitch trying to hit back at the town. McSkitty leaves quick and heads straight for the cave, ready to inflict pain. But Glitch is at the door. He's ready for this moment to tell her he's in a war with the mayor of the town, who is evil to the core. He explains a little more, how his keyboard is a sword, and to even up the score, he really needs our help. Get your black hoodie on and the VM you've been dealt. Together we are strong, saving sockness from the melts.
Jingle bells in the dead of night. Oh, what fear it is to hide from the things that start with might. Jingle bells in the haunted night. Oh, what dread it is to roam through the darkness filled with fright.
Well, hey everyone, welcome to day 7 of Try Hack Me's Advent of Cyber. My name is Tyler Ramsbey, aka Papa Shell, and we get to do some log analysis investigation together. So we have a lot to cover, everything from AWS to CloudWatch to Cloud Logs to JQ to parsing things, a lot of stuff. So let's go ahead and dive in, and let's first begin with the story for today. So we have a poem. As Sockmas approached, so did the need to provide those without with something to read. Cares for wares tried. They made it their mission. A gift for all wares, a Sockmas tradition. Although they had some, they still needed more. To pick up some books, they'd head to the store. The town's favorite books will no doubt make them jolly. They ticked off the list as they filled up the trolley. With the last book ticked off, the shopping was done. When asked for their card, the ware handed them one. "I'm sorry," he said, as the shop clerk reclined. "I can't sell you these books, as your card has declined." The ware put them back as they walked in confusion. How could this be? An attack, an intrusion? And when they logged on, the ware got a scare to find the donations. They just weren't there. And I want to scroll all the way down to give you the situation we're going to be digging into. Then I'll explain all the stuff I'm scrolling past. But we have an issue. In Sockmas, as we are trying to figure this out, we have this peculiar case of the dry funds, and here is the incident that we are going to investigate. So McSkitty, I believe, is the one who set this out. We received this link. We sent out a link on the 28th of November to everyone in our network that points to a flyer with the details of our charity. The details include the account number to receive donations. We received many donations the first day after sending out the link, but there were none from the second day on. I talked to multiple people who claimed to have donated a respectable sum. One showed his transaction, and I noticed the account number was wrong. I checked the link and it was still the same. I opened the link and the digital flyer was the same except for the account number. McSkitty recalls putting the digital flyer in an Amazon AWS S3 bucket. Now, if you're new to AWS, you're already a little bit confused. An AWS S3 bucket, I like to think of it of like FTP in the cloud. So if you've done any amount of CTFs, one of the first things you check is FTP. If port 21 is open and FTP is there, you want to see if you can do an anonymous login. If you can do an anonymous login into an FTP server, you might be able to pillage data or get sensitive information for the CTF. Well, the C3 bucket is similar. It's something an organization uses in AWS or Amazon Web Services for storing sensitive data, and if it's not secure, bad things can happen. Major breaches have happened due to misconfigured and insecure S3 buckets. So he put it in an S3 bucket named Wareville Cares for Wares. So we need to assist by finding out more about that link. And we have a few pieces of information. The day after the link was sent out, several donations were received successfully. Since the second day, no more donations have been received. A donator has shown proof. It was made 3 days after received it, but the account number was not correct. McSkitty put the digital flyer in that bucket, and the link has not been altered. Well, before we even dive into our investigation, we need to understand some basic things about AWS. So let me jump over to our machine. Oh, one more thing before we even do that. Go ahead and start the machine. The machine for this task is right here. We do need to start a VM. We're not using the attack box. We're going to be using the VM that goes with the room. And once you click the start machine button, it will open it in split screen. So go ahead and do that so everything is ready to go. If you need to pause this video, go ahead and pause the video and unpause it when your machine is ready to go. But start your machine by clicking the start machine button and we will dive into it. So first, we need to understand a little bit about AWS and some of the monitoring that goes into AWS. So let me switch over to our virtual machine here. Now, I have no idea why my virtual machine has this in the middle of it, but you know what? We'll just go with it. We'll open up our terminal. I'll make it big and I'll zoom in for you if I can. And the way I'm doing this is Control and Shift on your keyboard and then the plus icon on your keyboard, and you can zoom in. So here it is. What we first need to understand is some of the basic things in AWS. So you have a service, and I'm just going to call it CloudWatch here in the terminal. This will be my PowerPoint that you guys can look at. But CloudWatch is a centralized AWS monitoring and observability service, that's hard to say, that provides system metrics, logs, and alarms. So it's good for any type of investigation. And it records really 3 different things we want to keep in mind. One is log events. So I'll type that in right here. We have log events, and these are records of individual application events, and they're timestamped. So if we're looking at this S3 bucket, we want to see if anything's been modified or anything's been changed. That's going to be helpful for us. We also have something called log streams. These are collections of events from a source. So maybe a collection of events from the S3 bucket or from IAM, which is the identity management. And I'll explain more about that as we dive into it. And we also have log groups. These are organizational collections of log streams, typically for the same service or the application. So in CloudWatch, we have all 3 pieces that we can dig into. But in addition to CloudWatch, we have another service called CloudTrail. Now, this is an AWS service for monitoring actions by users, but it does it as JSON events. Now, that's going to be key that it does it in JSON. Now, it tracks a few different things. It tracks event history. So it tracks AWS events that happened within the past 90 days. You can set custom trails to do it longer. And we also have trails. These are custom tracking for events, and it's useful for investigations. But the main thing I want to draw your attention to is, once again, CloudTrail stores this as JSON events, and we're going to be investigating some CloudTrail logs. But let me show you how overwhelming this can be. So if we do ls here, we can cd or change directory into Wareville logs. So let's do that. You can hit tab on your keyboard to autocomplete and click enter on your keyboard. We're in this new directory, and if we ls, we have the CloudTrail_log.json. Now, we have this responsibility to investigate what happened with this S3 bucket, what happened with these donations. Well, if we just cat out CloudTrail log, it's overwhelming to say the least. If I zoom out here, you can see this is a lot of data, a lot of data, right? You don't want to be manually going through all that data. There we go. Let me zoom or clear my screen now so it's not filled up. We'll zoom out a little bit, but it's a lot of data. So we need a tool that helps us parse JSON data so we can better investigate what is going on, and that enters JQ. Now JQ, you can see it's installed right here, but JQ is a command line tool for parsing, filtering, and transforming JSON data. It's especially helpful for large sets of data that we can dig in and investigate the data. We can make tables, we can filter on different events, and that's exactly what we are going to do. Now in the task, for the beginning, we're given an example of a bookstore, which I think is helpful. So I want to do that. I'm going to copy it from the task. I have it in my notes right here, but in the task, you'll see some information for a bookstore, and let's set that up ourselves. So here, we'll just zoom out to this one, and I'll exit here. So in our home directory, not in Wareville logs, let's go ahead and do nano. And nano is just a text editor built into Linux. So we'll type nano and the name of the file we want to create. And we'll just call this bookstore.json like so. And now here I copied it to paste in your terminal. It's not Control V, but it's Control Shift V. Control Shift V will paste the bookstore into the terminal, once again, directly from the Try Hack Me room. And now that we've done that, I know all of this looks super intimidating and confusing, but that caret key just means control on your keyboard. So if you want to exit, we're going to hold control and hit X. And it's going to say, hey, do you want to save the modified buffer? We're going to click Y on our keyboard for yes. And now it says file name to write, bookstore.json, that's correct. And we will hit enter. All right, now that we've done that, if we cat out bookstore.json, we can see it right there, and we can begin to work a little bit with JQ. So the first thing we want to do is we'll just type JQ. We're calling it from the command line, and we just want to say, hey, we want to begin at the current input of the bookstore.json, and we want to grab the array of values. So all the values that are there, and we want to grab it from, of course, our bookstore.json file I just created. And when we do that, you can see it looks a lot neater, and it's giving us the information from up there, but it's formatting it nicely for us. We can see we have a book title, genre, and page count for each one of the books. But let's say we just want the titles of the books. That's where JQ was really powerful as we filter complex data sets. I mean, this isn't complex in and of itself, but you can see the power of this. So if we type JQ like we did before, I should show you that on Linux terminal, if you click the up arrow on your keyboard, you can see your previous command history. So instead of retyping our last command, I'm going to do up on my keyboard to get previous command history. And we'll go over to that array of data, and we're going to pipe it, which means, hey, I want you to take that array of data, and I want to grab something from that. And we want to grab the book title in particular. So we're going to do, hey, grab the book title for us from bookstore.json and hit enter. And then you can see we successfully filtered just the book title. Now, all the genres are different. So let's say instead of book title, we want to see the genres of the different books. Well, you can kind of guess how you do that. You would do genre like so, and we get the different genre from all of the different books. But now let's begin our investigation. We had a very simple introduction to JQ, but it's going to get crazy really fast. I'm going to do my best to explain what is going on, but hang on tight because there's going to be a lot of typing, a lot of things in the terminal. I'm sure a lot of typos I'm going to make as we go, but we need to do our investigation. So let's recap one more time. After sharing a flyer with donation details, care for where notices a drop in donation. That a few donations in the first day, but after that, the donations disappeared. But we had a donor say, hey, here's my receipt, but it was a different account number. Someone must have changed the account number. Someone must be stealing the funds. And it was all in an S3 bucket. We have the AWS logs, and we need to investigate. So the first thing we want to do is we want to filter for any events in those JSON logs that we saw for the S3 bucket. So let's do that. First, we need to change back to our Wareville logs directory. So here we are in our Wareville logs directory, and we have our CloudTrail.logs. And just like before, we're going to type JQ-R. And now we're going to get the records. And this is based on the logs that we're looking at. And from the records that we're looking at, we want to select something. And what we want to select is the event source of S3. We'll do it like this. Now, s3.amazonaws.com is just the general source for S3 buckets. So if you were looking at CloudLog, you would see all of this in there, just of course not pretty and not nice. And if you know AWS, you would recognize this. So let's go ahead and select the source from S3 AmazonaWS.com like so. And we want to do the request parameters, bucket name. Hopefully I'm spelling this correct. And remember, we want to see from a specific bucket, and the bucket we want to dig into is the whereville care for wheres. That's the bucket that we are investigating. We'll close that out, and we want to see it from our CloudTrail log.json. So when we do that, we see some information here, and we can dig into this information. If we scroll up here, and let me just zoom out a little bit so we can see this a little bit easier. And I'll explain what we see going on here. So the first thing we have here is we have a user named Glitch. We can see that by their ARN-IM. Now, this is just kind of like their unique identifier for their user. So if you don't know AWS, just think about this kind of like their username to simplify it. We have their principal ID. This is their access key. It's the way you access the AWS on the command line. Once again, you don't need to dig into that too much. We have the type IAM user. So that's what's going on here. And we have this section context creating the session. Now let's continue to go through this. We have this user, whoops, scroll up a little bit. We have a request being made from this source IP address, which might be something to note. IP is something we want to pay attention to when we're doing an investigation. And they are trying to list objects. So if we go back to our example of FTP, remember I said when you're doing a CTF, you see FTP is open. You want to see if you can access it anonymously and if you can see the files in the FTP server. If you can list those files, that's kind of like listing the objects in a S3 bucket. Can the user list what objects are in the S3 bucket? And that is what they are trying to do here. So they're listing the different objects in the S3 bucket, and they're continuing to enumerate to see what is going on. We can see them listing objects again, and scroll. We can kind of follow what's going on. Here is interesting. They're putting an object in the S3 bucket. So that might be something noteworthy for us. They're putting an object in there, but we do know the Glitch did that. So maybe, or not the Glitch, McSkitty did that. So that might be legit. But you can see all of the records from the S3 bucket, but there's specific things that we want to filter on. So let me zoom back in so you can see it. Okay, make sure my face isn't blocking you guys. Let's do up arrow on our keyboard, going back to our input, and we're going to add a lot of stuff. And actually, for the sake of time, you're going to notice as you look at this task, it gives you the full commands because these commands are long, and I'm not going to take the time to type out every single one of these commands. So we will copy and paste it, but I'll try to explain what is going on. So I'm going to copy it from the room to refine our output with some key fields. So let's walk through what I just did here. You recognize everything we did up to this point. We have our same event source, the S3 Amazon AWS.com. We have our bucket name of whereville careforwheres.com, but now we're filtering on some specific fields. We want the event time. We want the event name. We want the user identity and the username. And then we have these NA fields. NA just means, hey, these are placeholders. So if something doesn't exist, still fill things out. And we want request parameter bucket name, right? NA, just to make it nice when it prints it out. So let's click enter. And you can see it made it a little bit neater for us. We can see our event time, our event name right there, our user identity and username is the Glitch, and then we of course have our bucket and the IP that it's coming from. But now we want to format it as a table to make it even a little bit cleaner to look at. So I'm going to also copy this command from the room so we don't have to type the whole thing. I'll clear this out and we'll type in this command. And let me explain this now. You can see all of this up to this point is the same, except we are adding our headers and we're doing TSV to print it out as a nice table, and we're specifying in columns right here. So let's click enter on our keyboard, and this should give us a little bit of a nicer table. You can see it here. We have our event time. I think mine messed up because I'm zoomed in so much. If I zoom out, I bet it looks a little bit neater. Yeah. If we zoom out, you can see we have the event time right here. We have the event name right here. We have the username, which is a Glitch. We have the bucket name, which is whereville cares for wheres. The key, so you can see the purpose of the NA is to provide a placeholder so it doesn't just break when that doesn't exist. And we have the source IP. Now, what this tells us is clearly the Glitch is doing something. And when we talked to McSkitty didn't remember making a Glitch user. So it would be wise for us to filter events by the user glitch and see what exactly is going on with the glitch. How was this user created? Maybe that will be the smoking gun that leads us to the perpetrator that is committing this fraud and stealing money. So the way we can do that, I'm also going to copy this over from the room. But you should recognize some of these main fields. You can see our JQ again. We want event time, event source, event name, username, source IP, all that information from our records. But here's the key. This field right here, we want the user identity from the glitch and then make it a nice table like we did before. And let's see what the glitch has been up to. So here we go. We can see it. The glitch is listing objects in the bucket. He's putting objects in the bucket, logging into the console. That's the actual web app console, getting cost usage for some reason, listing enrollment statuses, listing more buckets, getting storage lens configuration. A lot of things are going on here and a lot of things that aren't necessarily good. We don't know why this is going on and we don't know what is going on here. One thing that might be helpful is looking at some of the user agents. How is the glitch accessing it? Are they using a Windows computer? Are they using a Linux computer? Are they using a Mac computer? Maybe we can fingerprint the machine that they are using as part of our investigation. Now, this needs to be used with caution because any attacker can change their user agent. You can quite easily specify a different user agent when you access an application. So this isn't like a foolproof method, but still might be helpful. Let's see what type of machine the glitch is using as he's modifying these records, and we'll copy that over from the room. I'm going to clear this and we'll copy this once again directly from the room. One change that we're making here is we have our user identity username, of course, is the glitch, but notice we now are going to grab the glitch's user agent. How are they accessing? How are they making these requests? And we will click enter on our keyboard. You can see it looks messy, probably because I would have to zoom out quite a bit. And zooming out makes it a little bit nicer, but not really. And then you guys can't see it. So I'll just zoom in a little bit. And we can look at these user agents right here. So you can see a lot of them are the S3 console. So this is just your basic AWS CLI. So when you interact with Amazon Web Services, you can use either a web GUI or the AWS CLI, which is like this. If I was doing AWS STS get caller identity is kind of like the who am I in AWS. And I do AWS pen testing, and even I'm confused by the very verbose method of all their commands. But when you make commands from AWS, it shows that's what's going on there. We're digging into it. And then we have the glitch using a Mac. I always knew Macs were evil, and this confirms it right here. But the glitch is accessing it from the Firefox browser on a Mac, at least according to the user agent. And we have the IP. So this is interesting. The glitch, or someone named the glitch, a user account named the glitch, seems to be doing something malicious, but we need to answer the question, how was the glitch created? Who created this user? Because the glitch shouldn't have access to these files, should not have access to the AWS account or this bucket. So we're going to do some more crazy log analysis filtering type stuff. We're going to focus on IAM events, folks, on user creation. And once again, you can grab this directly from the Try Hack Me room. You can just copy and paste it. But let me explain a little more what's going on. A lot of this should make sense now. We're filtering by event time, event source, event name, username, source IP. But now we're doing a different event source. Our event source is IAM, AmazonAWS.com. Now, IAM is the identity access management for AWS. It's how users and roles are managed, how users are created. So if we want to know, hey, who created the glitch user? Well, that's the source that we want to query. And we want to see the event time, event source, event name, user identity, username, and see what was all going on here. Who created account? So we'll click enter. And if we look over at this, we have a lot of listing policies by McSkitty from this IP address, which this is the IP address that's been in each one of the logs we've been looking at. So McSkitty is listing policies, getting policies, what? And creating a login profile and attaching a user policy and creating a user. That's suspicious. Is McSkitty stealing money? Is this an insider threat by McSkitty? Have we been infiltrated by the one and only McSkitty? Oh, we don't know. We don't know what's going on here. We want to investigate create user. Is this when they created the glitch? Is that what was going on here? So we want to dig into that specifically, and we can do that with this command, once again, directly from the room. But this one's a lot simpler to understand. You can see we want to get the event source, I am Amazon AWS.com like we did before, but we want to filter on this event name, create user. What is going on here? Let's click enter. And let's see this. We have McSkitty. McSkitty, username McSkitty right here, is creating a user. You can see it right here. And McSkitty created a user named The Glitch. Ooh. So here's what we've established so far. We have a user named The Glitch who isn't supposed to exist. He's not supposed to be in our Amazon account. The glitch is not supposed to be able to access our buckets, but it seems the glitch was listing objects from our buckets, putting objects in the buckets, and likely is part of the fraud that is going on. And when we trace the events, it looks like McSkitty themselves, the one who sent us to investigate, created the glitch account. But maybe not so fast. What if McSkitty themselves were compromised? That would be a question. And the other question we need to answer next is, what damage did the glitch do? Did the glitch elevate the privileges to administrator? Were they only limited to the bucket? What access did they have to our environment? Because if we look back, and I don't think we have it right here. We have this attach user policy. Now, when you attach a user policy, that's a way that you can give a user in AWS greater privileges. So if you're able to do privilege escalation in AWS, it's often by attaching a policy to your user, and you get greater access into the AWS account. So we want to filter on that. Let's see if there is any information that we can find from that attached user policy. And let me just clear this out. Let's jump back up to the top, and I'll zoom in a little bit again so we can see this a little bit better. But this is almost identical to our previous command. The only thing that we're changing here is the event name. And instead of the create user, we're going to look for the event name attach user policy. What was going on? What policy was attached? And let's hit enter. All right. And if we look at this, we have McSkitty attached a user policy to the glitch. And this is not good. This means that whoever this threat actor is, they compromised McSkitty potentially. They created a user called the glitch to frame the glitch for the attack that was going down, and they gave the glitch account administrator access to the environment. That is bad. I mean, with administrator access to an AWS environment, that's the keys to the kingdom. If you know Active Directory, this is like the domain admin, but for AWS. They can fully compromise our account. They likely have persistence. They could have set up backdoors. This is not a good thing. What is going on? So now what we need to figure out is who did this. It seems like it was McSkitty, but we know that it wasn't McSkitty. Someone must be framing McSkitty and creating this account. One thing to check is, hey, we know that IP. We've seen an IP come up over and over again. This 5394.201.69. We could filter by IP address. What's going on with this IP? So I'm going to copy this once again directly from the room. But we're going to do this again, and let me read it to us again. We're doing JQ like we've seen over and over again. All this stuff is the same. The only difference here is this. We want to filter by the source IP address that we've seen over and over again. This 5394.201.69, right? That's clearly a suspicious IP, and we'll hit enter on our keyboard. And you can see, if we scroll up, the first person to use this IP is Mayor Malware. And then the glitch, and then Mayor Malware, and then McSkitty, and then the glitch, and then McSkitty, then the glitch, and then Mayor Malware. So when we look at this, I think we have good evidence to say, hey, it seems to be an insider threat, not from McSkitty. The glitch isn't attacking us, but Mayor Malware. So if we trace this back, here's what Mayor Malware seemed to have done. Mayor Malware, from his source IP, apparently he doesn't know what a VPN is to change his IP when he's doing a malicious attack, but Mayor Malware used McSkitty's account to create the glitch, to blame the glitch for the attack, logged into the glitch, gave him administrator access, and was able to dive deep and really exploit the user. Now, we can check this. We can go even deeper on each one of these users by seeing what IPs and what user agents do these users use. We know that we're looking at the glitch that we're using Mozilla Firefox and Mac OS. Let's check out each one of these users. So I'm going to grab this once again directly from the room, and I'll explain what's going on here. But let me clear here. And we have this in the room. You can see we're doing event time, event source, event name, user agent, etc., etc. But the one thing we want to change is the username. And you can see the username up there. Right now it's set to placeholder. Let's change that to Mayor Malware. Okay. So Mayor Malware, from what we can see, also uses Mozilla Firefox and also has the same IP and is using the Macintosh because, of course, Macs are evil. Very clear in this investigation. If we filter instead for, let's say, we have McSkitty and the glitch is, of course, going to be the same as Mayor Malware, but what about McSkitty? If I can spell her name correctly. There we go. So when we look at McSkitty, we have the 53, the same IP as before, but if we go down here to when the real McSkitty seems to be on, we have Firefox, Windows, and a different IP. So I think we've solved the mystery. The real attack path is Mayor Malware logged into McSkitty's account, try to frame McSkitty by creating a user called the glitch, and then frame the glitch. Pretty intense here, but they forgot to change their IP address. And then as the glitch user, it seems that they uploaded the put object that we saw in the S3 bucket, a malicious account number to dig into that. Well, let's go ahead and keep digging into things. If we jump back over to the room, we have some questions to answer that we're now able to answer so far as part of our investigation, but we aren't done yet. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's scroll down to the questions and answer a few of these first questions as we completed most of our investigation so far. Scroll. You can see we covered all of this together. All right, so what is the other activity made by the user glitch aside from the list object action? Well, if you remember, we saw that there was put object. We saw that right away in our investigation. There's a put object. And what is the source IP related to the S3 bucket activities for the user glitch? Well, we've seen that a lot over in our investigation. If I just go to our previous command, we can check this out. And we have the IP right here. This is the IP we've been running into over and over again with all of the stuff, and especially the bucket activity that we've been seeing. So let's grab that. If I can jump to the right screen, there we go. Based on the event source field, what is an AWS based on the event source field, what AWS service generates the console login? Well, if you remember, that's signin.amazonaws.com. We saw that in the log, so we'll type that in. signin.amazonaws.com. All right, when did the anomalous user trigger the console login event? And I don't remember having that from our notes, so let's go ahead and check that out. If we jump back over to our VM, we need to grab the right command to see, hey, what is going on here? And that was our user, the glitch. So I'm going to copy this from the Try Hack Me room, but it's one of the commands that we ran. I'll clear this and we'll paste it in. So you've already seen this command, but here we're filtering all of our activity based on the glitch to see when that happened. If we look at this, you can see the console login right here. There's that event source it asked about. And here is our time. So we'll copy this for our time. We'll copy, jump back over to the Try Hack Me room and paste it in like so. What is the name of the user that was created by McSkitty? Well, of course, that was the glitch who we've been doing our investigation on. And what type of access was assigned to the anomalous user? Now, remember, this was not good. If we jump back to a few previous commands, what's it going to do this? I'm doing the up arrow on my keyboard to see our previous command history so I don't have to retype things. But there was one of these commands that we were digging into on the attach user policy command. Remember, they attach the administrator access to themselves, and I said, that is not good. I mean, they have full access. They have compromised our AWS environment very, very bad, but that is the access they gave themselves, and that is the question it's answering. What type of access was assigned to the anomalous user? We'll do that. And what IP does Mayor Malware typically use to log into AWS? Well, We know that he uses this malicious IP that we have tracked down. What is McSkitty's actual IP address? Well, if we jump back over to our VM, we'll clear this out. And remember, up arrow on your keyboard, we can go through command history, and we filtered by the McSkitty user right here. The user identity, username McSkitty. Hit enter on our keyboard, and we can see McSkitty's real IP right there. So go ahead and grab their real IP. And now we have that. Now what we want to do is see, hey, what information do we have on the bank? So if you scroll up in the Try Hack Me room, we're given some information right here. It says, McSkitty suggests gathering stronger proof that the person is behind this incident. Luckily, Wareville Bank cooperated with us. So we have access to some of the bank logs to see what is going on in the rds.log file. And since the logs are different from the logs previously investigated, McSkitty said, hey, here's some ways to analyze it. Specifically, you want to look for insert. So grep insert rds.log, and we can see some information here. So let's dive into the insert and check out these bank logs and see if we can continue to unravel this mystery. So we'll jump back over to this VM. In our Wareville logs, we have the RDS log right there. So we'll grep insert on the RDS log because that's when money is being added into the account. And let's look at this. If we scroll to the top, we see initially on the first day, we have a lot of funds going into Care for Aware's fund, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. But notice this, as we scroll, Mayor Malware is stealing the money. He's taking it in his bank account. That is not good. At the same time that we have the S3 object being changed around and all of this malicious activity being done, Mayor Malware is the culprit. He is stealing the funds. We have unraveled the mystery, and we need to grab his account number so we can dig into this further, send it over to the bank, and let them know fraud is happening by the mayor out of all people. So we'll jump back over to our Try Hack Me room, and we can answer that question. We'll scroll down here. What is the bank account? There is that. And of course, there is a log universe room here on Try Hack Me if you want to learn more about log analysis, which I encourage you to do so. There's only so much we can cover in one Try Hack Me room. As we're digging into JQ and AWS and log analysis, there is a lot to cover. So, hey, I know this is probably a little more of a difficult room, a lot of information to wade through, but hopefully you learned something in the process. And if you want to learn more about AWS, Try Hack Me also has an incredible learning path on AWS that you can purchase and go through. Kind of quick self-promotion. I got permission from Try Hack Me when I did the AWS pathway to stream all of it. So here on my YouTube channel, I have a playlist that covers all of the AWS pathway from Try Hack Me. So if you want to learn more about AWS, you can check that out. But guys, thank you everybody for watching on our mission to save SOCMIS, and I will see you in the next one.